coach, Katrina Merriweather.
All right. Obviously, playing not just a top 10 team, but a Vic Schaefer team is always going to be tough. I'm really proud of our kids. We are making tremendous strides taking care of the ball. I thought that we were pretty good until that zone got a hold of us, pretty unexpected up until this point. I believe Texas had played about 8 possessions of zone all year. So it didn't really flow the way we would have liked to offensively. But ultimately, coming into this environment on the road, I thought our kids did a decent job, and we'll just keep working and building.
Raise your hands for questions.
Katrina, how much did that zone kind of throw you off? It certainly surprised me up in press row seeing Vic throughout the zone. How much did that kind of throw you guys for a loop?
Yeah, it did. I mean, like I said, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I believe there's been 8 possessions all season of zone. And I would argue that there was upwards of 20, maybe 25 today. I would argue that rebounding and the foul count mattered far more than that, though. We're top 15 in the country in free throw attempts, and that didn't happen today.
To clarify, are you saying that the officiating led to that? I mean, was a problem or?
I think that I think most things, 2 things can be true. I think that we can do a better job of not fouling, and I also think that there's some times where maybe we didn't make it as clear or obvious that we were being fouled as well. So that's never to discredit the other team. I don't know that if that happens that it changes the score or the result, but it would have been nice to play a little more 5-on-5 and for them to not have shot 29 free throws.
Were you disappointed in the offensive rebounding? That's something
Absolutely.
you guys are usually better at.
Absolutely. Well, we are really good at. I believe that we have either matched or won every rebounding battle in the Big 12 until today. And again, maybe that needs to be checked by our SID, but I'm nearly positive that that's been the case. So it got tough today, and Texas got tougher. And I felt like there were some moments where we just didn't play with the urgency that I expected us to play with, especially with how well we played and how we stayed in the game early on.
Coach, against Oklahoma, Vic Schaefer talked about his team's effort. How would you assess the Longhorns' effort today and just, for the 50-50 balls on the floor, things like that, putting their bodies on the line?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Oklahoma game, obviously, just for scouting purposes. That was an anomaly. I don't ever see Vic Schaefer's teams not play hard. So I would say, now he would probably argue with me. I've known him for a long time. But I don't know. That's not what his teams do. So I didn't expect them to not to play hard today. I would never expect them not to. And then I'm sure after he convincingly talked to them over the last couple of days that they were going to be much better today.
Katrina, where would you kind of assess where your team is at this season? Obviously, first year under you, first year in this conference. Where are the Bearcats kind of at this point?
I think that with our last win, it is obvious that we're taking some steps forward. We have had some roster complications where we've had players for a couple games and then not for a couple games, and that always attributes to, I think, not being as fluid as you would like to be offensively. Lineups change. Our starting point guard, who was supposed to play 30 minutes a game, we lost a handful of games ago, and that just matters. I mean, you all know that, not having Rory. Your team just looks different. You're constantly pivoting, constantly trying to figure things out. The staff and I talk about jokingly, it's like a Sudoku puzzle every day. What can this group run? What's the best defense for this group? How can we guard this particular thing? And it's challenging, but that's why we do this. It's challenging for our kids too, and that's going to be life. They're going to have to figure out how to pivot when things don't go as they're expected or their way. And that's what I hope our team is learning about basketball, but also just learning about how life is going to be, and they learn how to respond that way.
Coach, I just wanted to ask, no Booker tonight. Was she somebody you guys were really looking for on the scouting report? And then when she didn't kind of hop onto the court, it was a little confusing? Or was it just a scouting report of the team as a whole?
Yeah, well, that's a tricky question. I was not looking for her. I was hoping that maybe she decided to, I don't know, go to Hawaii or something today. But to say that you're happy a kid doesn't play, absolutely not, because we don't want anything to be wrong or anything to have gone on. But it was clearly a surprise. We talked about her a lot. I felt like we had a pretty decent game plan in the event that she had played, so that also, was a slight pivot. And that's probably why Coach Schaefer decided to play so much zone. Like his team looked different too today. So there's all these things that all of us are doing, and it's our job to try to figure it out. And they obviously did that without her, because she's extremely talented. But I can't say I'm unhappy that we did not play against her today. But I do hope everything is good and she's okay.
How much zone did you play today, and was that enough pressure on, a backup point guard?
Yeah, we play traditionally about 15% zone, and I felt like we played more than I wanted to, but that had to do with foul trouble. When Hayes and Williams are in foul trouble, that's hard on us. So we were just trying to give a little bit of a different look, and I think, to your point, they came out really aggressive, catching it in the pinch post, really driving it, really rebounding it. So attacking our fours and fives in that way also impacts us offensively.
And Coach, how much did Taylor Jones down low affect y'all, especially early in the game on the defensive end?
Yeah, very much so. I think she's a very active defender. We refer to players sometimes as handsy. She's a very handsy defender, so it's a little pesky down there. And when you try to prepare for something like that, if you don't have anyone like that, it's tough to do. But I thought that everybody on Texas's team stepped up with the absence of Booker, and everybody did what they normally do with a little extra. And we talk a lot about doing what you do and not what you don't. And I feel like really good teams, they buy into that. Like, this is what I'm good at, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to do anything that I don't practice or that I'm not good at. And that's what I feel like we competed against today for 40 minutes, where players that said, this is what I can contribute and this is what I'm going to do. So it was really hard for us to knock them off of their square because they were so determined to do that.
Coach, I wanted to ask, the Big 12 can be a very difficult place to play, especially in women's basketball. Can you just give me your perspective on that, being the first time in this conference and just kind of seeing like the highs and lows of, any day anybody can fall to whatever team in the conference?
Last year, when you look back at the Big 12, even though it was really competitive and really good, I feel like there was more parity. And so now here we are, and a lot of the teams have gotten a lot better, which is, if I'm being transparent, when we took this job, we didn't know it was going to be the case. It wouldn't have changed anything, still would have come, but it did change when you start looking at the schedule. You're like, oh, okay, here we go, another top 10 team. I think it's phenomenal to coach against these type of coaches, and for our players to see if they want to be professionals, what that looks like. They have goals, aspirations of playing in WNBA or playing overseas. Then the best way for you to measure that is to play against people who also are wanting to do those things. So it's a tremendous challenge, but we love it and we welcome it. And we are celebrating the small victories. We talk about that a lot. Celebrate the small ones until they add up to the big ones.
And I just wanted to ask you, what's it like to see women's basketball, just kind of continue to grow? I mean, tonight or today at the Moody Center, a lot of folks came out. It was, a pretty packed out crowd. And then you see, South Carolina and LSU on ESPN and things like that. And to know, like, you're kind of in the mix of all this, just what does that feel like, and what does it mean to you?
No, it feels amazing as a former student athlete. And my kids joke because I'm 44, and I remember my freshman year we didn't have any media timeouts. The only time you got a break is if your coach called a timeout. Then my sophomore year we had radio, so then those were really short. And then finally we started to get a little bit of a break, and so we give them a hard time when they get tired. But to watch the game grow the way that it has makes me incredibly happy. I think that when we go into these venues like today and you see how many people support women's basketball, it creates this environment where our kids are being rewarded for how hard they work. And even at our place, our weekend games are are building and growing. And I think weekdays are just hard up north sometimes between the weather and we've got a lot of other entertainment battles going on up there. But I'm pleased with the way that people are supporting women's basketball, and we encourage them to continue and to do it more and more. And I have to say this because it's been a conversation, not to try to attach a monetary value to women's basketball. This sport is growing really tough women and leaders, and you cannot attach revenue to what women's basketball is doing for young girls that are going out into society as productive citizens and women and leaders.
Any more questions?
All right, thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.